Hey y'all, meteorologist Erica Lopez bringing you a live severe weather update. This afternoon continues to be pretty active all along the Gulf Coast. New tornado watches have been issued. Several tornado warnings are active right now. Let me know where you're watching from this afternoon and welcome to our live show. We're going to keep you updated with severe weather throughout the rest of this afternoon and into the evening. So stay with us. We'll keep you updated and safe. And especially if you have any questions on where you are, maybe you're in Florida, Alabama. These storms are racing towards your area as we get into the overnight and into your Thursday. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on now. Let's take a look at the MyRadar app, and you're seeing these red boxes on your screen. These are the active tornado warnings we are tracking just now. There was a little bit of a lull just before we came on our live stream of tornado warning. So it's picking up once again as we are getting into that afternoon hours and that daytime heating really fueling these storms. But let's take a look at these couple of warnings. All of these are mostly in Louisiana this afternoon, but this tornado warning, we'll go through them. A tornado warning for central west Feliciana counties, parishes, I should say. This is in Louisiana, and this goes until 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So you have about 12 minutes on this warning. Right now, these are radar indicated. I'm not seeing any confirmed tornadoes with these storms, but of course, like we saw earlier today, this is not out of the realm, not a possibility. So we're going to be watching these storms pretty closely. Again, this goes until 12:30, and that's for Feliciana Parish there in Louisiana. The one just south of this tornado warning is another warning that's also for northeastern Baton Rouge parishes. And this one goes until 2:30 as well. Of course, radar indicated right now could produce a tornado, and make sure you're going to the lowest floor and put as many walls between you and the windows as this tornado warning is going over your area as we speak. And we did have another tornado warning that was issued. This is one of the newest ones until 12:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time. This is for Eastern Livingston Parish in southeastern Louisiana. And then Tanapoga Parish, sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, in southern Louisiana. And of course, this is radar indicated, moving at 30 miles per hour. And it's a dangerous storm moving over these areas. So let's turn on the reflectivity, or I should say velocity layer, and see if we're seeing any spin with these storms. So the one here, you could see a little bit of rotation. That's when you see the green and the red combining together on the reflectivity. So this is one definitely to watch, although it's not a strong indication of strong rotation, but seeing that on the radar could potentially mean we could get some sort of spin up with this particular tornado warning. This one's for Eastern Livingston Parish County. And now this one has a little bit of indication of some sort of rotation as well. And of course, these are both radar indicated as they're going out of this radar zone. So if we turn on this radar, this one near Jackson, Mississippi, we can get a better picture on the other side if this radar particularly is picking up on any velocity. It doesn't look like we are seeing much on this particular radar. So this is the update, at least in terms of the 3 tornado warnings we're watching now. You still have another 15 minutes on both of these warnings, but I also want to give you a quick update on what we're going to see the rest of the evening. A new tornado watch has been issued mostly for Louisiana. This does include the city of Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and even parts of Biloxi in Mississippi, Gulfport. So this is a new tornado watch, and this goes into effect until 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So what this means is the ingredients are there for tornadoes to form, especially ahead of this line that's pushing through parts of Louisiana now. That's the one that even caused those tornadoes across southwestern Texas and the Gulf Coast of Texas as well, and in Louisiana. So definitely one to watch. But let's take a look at our WSI graphics there, Matt, and take a look at what we're seeing, because I do want to time out these impacts for you, especially with this particular tornado warning. So we'll turn on, let's see, we'll turn on the velocity layer here, just so you could see where we are seeing a little bit indication of rotation. So it looks like not much, at least on this radar, but I do want to time out exactly what you can expect if you're anywhere near these cities on what you can expect on the timing. So if you're anywhere in Springfield, it's about 17 minutes away, 27 there in Albany and even Independence. So we got a couple more minutes on this warning. If you're in any of these cities, just heed those warnings. Stay in your safe place right now and write it out at least over the next coming minutes. So we're watching these storms pretty closely over Louisiana there. This is just outside of Baton Rouge, outside of New Orleans area, just to the north of New Orleans there. So this is why you just need to pay attention, close attention to these storms as these are getting more robust over these areas. And here's a look at the MyRadar app of that line of storms that's continuing to push across parts of Louisiana. These tornado warnings in particular are forming in front of this line of storms. This line of storms also has produced some pretty gusty winds, and we're also still seeing some severe thunderstorm warnings with these storms as well. So this one's a big one, the severe thunderstorm warning that's ongoing. It really has a lot of the population highlighted, and this is until 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and this is including Cameron, Lafayette, St. Mary, Acadia, Vermilion, and St. Martin and St. Landry parishes, and this is until 2:30 this afternoon. So 60-mile-per-hour winds are possible within these lines of storms. So you can see it here on the WSI graphics. We'll go back to that, Matt, just to give them a big picture view, and then we can time it out for them as well. But there you have it. There is that line, and you can kind of see it have this kind of bow echo signature. So that does indicate some stronger winds within this storm system, but you're seeing this push through areas of Louisiana. So Lake Charles, you're past the brunt of this storm, and it looks like things are going to start to get better if you're anywhere near the Lake Charles area. Alexandria, you're right in the thick of it, and then the next coming cities are going to be in it is Lafayette. You're under these crazy conditions in terms of 60-mile-per-hour winds, heavy rainfall that's falling currently at the moment, and then as this line pushes through, you're going to see later in Franklin, Houma, and then New Orleans eventually. This line of storms will push into your area. So if you're in New Orleans right now, it's not very rainy, so you still have a couple more minutes until you can be outdoors doing any type of errands, maybe deciding if you should have an early commute home. Right now would be the best time to really commute anywhere, because that rain's going to start picking up, and especially as we get into the 4 and 5 o'clock hour, this is when that timeline of storms will move through this area. So again, most of these tornado warnings are in Louisiana as we are speaking, severe thunderstorm warnings as well. You're seeing in those yellow boxes, but let's time it out for you. If you're wondering, like I mentioned, in Louisiana or New Orleans, what's the time frame that these storms will impact you? So this is a look at 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So that's just in the next coming minutes. The storms are right over you in Baton Rouge and even parts of central Louisiana. Now, as we time it out throughout the rest of the afternoon, you can even see our radar is picking up on maybe some isolated storms right in front of this front near New Orleans. These are the ones that we're watching, because these are the ones that may have some indication of rotation with them, may spark some tornado warnings. And this is why New Orleans, you're under this tornado watch until 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So this is around the 5 o'clock hour. This is prime time for commute, going to work or going back home. And that's why I say if you can have an early morning commute, or I should say an earlier commute home, do that now or within the next couple of minutes, because it'll be pretty nasty as we get into the 5 o'clock hour, and then pushing forward into 6 o'clock and even 7 o'clock. Those storms are right over New Orleans. You're going to see some of the gustiest winds with this line of storms at around 6 and 7. And then after, really, you're going to clear right after 9 p.m. this evening. And then these storms start to push into parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and even the Gulf Coast states. So something to keep in mind, we still have the risk of tornadoes heading into the next coming hours over the Gulf Coast state there in New Orleans, Biloxi, you're going to be in on this, and even parts of Alabama. So a lot of gusty winds in association with the system as it pushes forward. And then if you're anywhere in the Florida Panhandle, this is more of an overnight threat for y'all. And then you're going to see some of those isolated storms and that line pushing through Panama City 2 a.m. early this morning, and then 4 o'clock a.m. into the afternoon. And then if you're anywhere in Jacksonville, it'll be 8 o'clock for you when those storms will be to the west. And then as we progress into the 10 o'clock hour, a lot of that activity will start to come into parts of Florida. and even parts of the southeast. So not as robust as what we've been seeing, but it doesn't mean that the tornado potential isn't there heading into your day tomorrow. So let's take a look and give you a quick update on what's going on with these warnings on the MyRadar app. So it looks like they just expired one of the warnings that was just over Jackson, Louisiana this afternoon, but we're still watching 2 tornado warnings that are still in effect. And if you're anywhere in Albany, Louisiana, Springfield, these are the areas that are going to be impacted by the storm. And of course, windy conditions coming into those areas. So 2:45 is this particular warning over Livingston and Tanapauga Parish in Louisiana. Windy conditions, and of course, stay in your safe zone. You have about another 20 minutes on this warning here. And we're going to take a look at the velocity to see if we've picked up any more of that rotation, if the storm has gotten its act together. So we're going to put on the radar and put the one closer to Louisiana. So it doesn't look like we have any strong indication of rotation on this storm, but was some sort of rotation on it earlier. And again, this is over Albany, Springfield, Louisiana, and looks like they did expire that warning that was just north of this area. So right now, as it stands, we have 1 tornado warning over Louisiana as we speak. So I'm going to take a look and see if we have any updates on any of these storms, if anything was confirmed. It doesn't look like it. But a severe thunderstorm capable of producing this particular storm. Let's see, tornado warning. And we also have a severe thunderstorm warning that has a tornado possible tag. And this is that big one we were talking about. Yes, this big one that we're talking about with the line of storms that has actually 2 severe thunderstorm warnings on this. These go until 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time as well, 60-mile-per-hour winds. And sometimes I will say they do issue these tornado warnings because of how gusty winds are. So sometimes you can see rotation, but sometimes tornado warnings are needed because some extreme winds can occur with a line of storms exactly like this. And it's a pretty strong line of storms that's moving through this area as we speak. But let's turn on our regular radar. Composite reflectivity, and there you have it. Those storms forming in front of this line of storms, several severe thunderstorm warnings that we have in place right now. And I was checking in on that chaser feed, and it doesn't look like we have any visuals of what's going on the ground down there, at least as of right now. But of course, if anybody's out there and it pops up on our MyRadar app, we'll show you the images that are coming out of Louisiana. But either way, be prepared if you're anywhere in New Orleans, like I mentioned, Baton Rouge, you're seeing some of the initial convection on front of this line of storms. Baton Rouge, you're not done with these storms just yet. This line is just west of you, and it'll eventually come into this area. Morgan City, Houma, Baldwin, Franklin, and Louisiana, you're going to get in on this in the next coming minutes and hours as well. So just be prepared if you're in any of those areas over the next coming minutes. We're going to see all of these types of severe weather threats coming into. But I will say the severe weather threats we're really watching is the potential of tornadoes and even some gusty winds. Hail is a very low chance, especially with these storm systems. So something to keep in mind, especially on the Gulf. It's pretty rare to have any sort of hail forming with these kinds of storms closer to the Gulf of Mexico there. But it doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's just a very low chance for these types of impacts to occur within these areas. So there you have it, that 1 tornado warning we're watching. Not seeing any strong indication of rotation within the storm, but either way, you still have to be in your storm shelter and taking shelter because of this storm systems, especially with what we saw earlier today. A pretty active scene overall. Let's show them the storm reports, Matt, on WSI. And over the last 24 hours, you can see this is pointing at near Houston and then parts of western Louisiana, and you're seeing all of those storm reports on your screen, that's how many people, or some people, submitted in terms of tornado reports all across parts of Texas and even Louisiana. And that was just this morning. So this is why we're watching these storms pretty closely. They already produced several tornadoes over the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana. So just something to keep in mind. Again, if you're just tuning in, we'll just give you a quick update on what is going on right now in Louisiana. We do have an active tornado warning. And I'm just reading your comments to see if any of y'all have any questions. So Central Florida, Mississippi Gulf Coast, y'all be prepared. It's going to be an active couple of hours over your areas as we are watching these storms. And this line of storms really isn't even halfway through Louisiana as we speak. So this line of storms, even though it's producing these tornado warnings in front of it, you're still going to see a lot of that heavy rainfall right after these storms, and even as we get into the rest of tonight. So that's why we have this tornado watch in place until 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So Matt, you can keep the radar up. I'm going to take a look at some of these reports that we're seeing just to get the latest information on what we're going to see here later on today. So let's take a look at what's going on. So severe thunderstorm warnings now in place for Mississippi. Looks like a newly issued severe thunderstorm warning. And we're still continuing that tornado warning until 2:45 Central Daylight Time for Albany, Tickfall, Louisiana, Natalby, Louisiana as well. And yeah, so pretty active day overall so far. And this tornado watch was actually just issued a couple of minutes ago, right before we jumped onto the stream. So maybe you haven't seen it yet, but just be aware of these conditions. This is going to affect the Mississippi Gulf Coast and even parts of Louisiana, including New Orleans, Biloxi, South Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi there. And this will, Mobile, though I will say, is not under any sort of watch as we speak, but I wouldn't be surprised if later on this evening we see some sort of watch as this line of storms continues to push over the Gulf Coast states. So yeah, you're seeing just a lot of activity here. We'll put on the regular radar here. And really, although most of the severe activity is near the Gulf Coast, this line of storms actually stretches from Little Rock, Arkansas, all the way into parts of the northern plains. And you're seeing that there on radar. Although those storms, I will say, up in the northern plains aren't as robust. They're still producing a lot of rain over these areas. And you're seeing that whole stretch of line there, at least in terms of the radar. So a lot of the strongest storms are near the Gulf, but we're still seeing a lot of rain still falling over parts of the northern plains. And I did see earlier, so we did have stormy and windy conditions across the New England area. Boston, you were under high wind warnings for quite a bit of time there. Looks like they did expire some of those, with the exception of the ones closer to the coast there. High wind warnings until 5 p.m. this afternoon. So Boston, you're not really in this, but Eastern Plymouth, Dukes, and Barnesdale and Nantucket in Massachusetts are still seeing the brunt of what was this nor'easter that impacted the Northeast. Not much rain, at least in association with this, but most of this activity is off to the west in those areas. So just a quick update. I know some of you were curious about what's going on there. So not only were we watching things happen across the Gulf Coast, but there were those gusty winds, a lot of rainfall across the Northeast over the past 24 hours as well. So we don't want to forget about you guys that were impacted by that nor'easter over the last coming days. So I'm going to go back and read your comments. Let's see. Pearl River, Louisiana. Somebody's asking about Pearl River, Louisiana. I'm not really sure where that is located, but I'm assuming you have not seen, if you're asking about it, you have not seen any of the strongest parts of this. So Pearl River. So Pearl River, you're just north of Slidell there, north of New Orleans. So yeah, Pearl River, you're going to get in on this later this afternoon, really. I would say about the 5 to 6 p.m. time frame. I think that's when you're going to see some of the strongest winds, but maybe even earlier, like we're seeing now. These individual storms are starting to form ahead of this front. And that is what's making way for this rotation in some of these storms. So Pearl River, I honestly would be an alert. Stay on your phone, charge your phone, just in case the power does go out. We did have a couple power outages with these particular storm systems, especially in the Houston area. So let's give you an update on that. I'll turn on the power outage layer, and you're seeing all that blue across your screen. And even this red area, this is really, I think, one of the hottest areas, at least in terms of those power outages. This is in Cameron Parish, and about 801 customers are affected with these power outages so far. These blue areas, Jefferson outage. This is near Beaumont, Texas, about 8,500 customers without power. And then in and around just south of Baton Rouge, looks like there's also quite a bit of power outages there. Iberville Parish, 101 customers without power. So I think these will actually go up as the storm system is starting to get its act together. This will produce some pretty gusty winds over the next coming hours. But all that blue you're seeing right there is the amount of customers that are without power as the storm system continues to roll on. So also make sure you're charging your phones just in case your power goes out. You can't get the alerts. The only way you can do it is through your phone. Make sure those are charged, any electronics, before these storm systems get there, just so you have a way to receive information just in case you do happen to be over an area that is under a tornado warning. And especially with what it has already produced today, you want to be aware of those kinds of conditions over the next coming hours. So I'm going to let this radar play for a little bit for you. If you're just tuning in, we're just giving you a quick update on what's going on. A couple tornado warnings were issued earlier, just ahead of this front, north of Baton Rouge this afternoon. So we're continuing to watch this, especially with what already has happened today across the Gulf Coast with these storm systems that were pretty robust. And we're going to continue to track these conditions. So I'm going to leave the radar playing, if you will, Matt. Just leave it full screen there. That way I have a chance to look over this information and bring you in some new updates there with these storm systems. Hey y'all, we just want to give you a quick update on what's going on. We now have a newly issued tornado warning, and this actually had an observed tornado in association with this. This is for Concordia, Louisiana. At 2:52, a tornado was reported near Lentzworth, 8 miles east of Simmonsport, and it's moving at 35 miles per hour. So this is a confirmed tornado, and this is for Concordia, Louisiana. And if we take a look at the WSI graphic system here, Matt, if you could pull that up for me, please. We're going to take a look at the reflectivity. So there's the warning. It's just right on that border of Louisiana and Mississippi there. And again, this is for the town. There's Simsport right there. And this is actually this warning. So that was earlier where that tornado was reported, was over Simsport, and is now moving to the east. And this is where we have that newly issued tornado warning in this red shaded area. Very small area, but that's right on the border of Mississippi and Louisiana. Now, if we turn on the velocity layer there, I'm not seeing any indication of rotation, but you're seeing it just a little bit here in Simsport. So I'm going to pause this now and just go back just a little bit. So this dark area of rotation there. So let's circle that for you so you can see it better. But that's dark area. Had indication of rotation there, and so that's the area that's actually moving. So it already moved over Simsport. It's just to the east of that. So if you're anywhere in this warning box zone, you really need to heed this warning. That velocity is still, as it's going out of this radar zone, it is still rotating within this area. So I'll take this off and draw a new circle for y'all. So here is where the velocity or the rotation is on the storm system, and that's where the warning is in this area. So a tornado warning again for there in Acadia. Let's see, that was a tornado warning for Concordia, Louisiana, and for those areas there. So let's see, the latest update might have just canceled that warning, but there's still a little bit of, okay, so there it is. Let's go to the MyRadar app, Matt, and show y'all where that warning is on the app. So there it is. It just popped up, and you're seeing that very dark area. It's right on the edge of this front in that line of storms that's moving through parts of Louisiana. So these can produce quick spin-ups, not only in front of the front, but within and embedded on the front. So there you're seeing it on there on the radar. And again, this is for Concordia Parish in Louisiana until 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. This was earlier a confirmed tornado. Right now looks like it has lifted, but we're still seeing some sort of indication of the loss or of rotation as it is moving over these areas. And again, so let's turn on this radar site so we can better picture it here. We'll turn on the Jackson, Mississippi radar, and then there you see it a little bit better on radar. And then if we turn on the velocity layer, you can see a little bit of rotation earlier on this storm system, but it looks like it's just going right under the warning box. It's a very funky looking warning box there for a tornado warning, but either way, it does tell you there is rotation within this storm system. So let's go to the WSI graphics and let's try to time it out. So this is the latest loop with it. So now this has moved over these areas. So let's delete this. You can see right over the warning box layer there, and as it moves, it's going to move over areas into Mississippi there within the next coming minutes. And you can see Point Breeze, really you're in the path of this storm if the velocity and rotation upheld with this storm. So watching it very closely there for those areas. And so we're still continuing with this tornado warning, and this is active until 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So just something to keep in mind. This is one of the warnings that we are watching now. We're going to turn on that reflectivity or that regular radar so you can see where it is in relation to. So Baton Rouge, you're right in the front of this. You're right in front of this storm system. So you're about to get in on this action in a couple of minutes. Anywhere north of Baton Rouge, you're seeing some of the strongest wind gusts in association with the storm system as well. And then you're seeing that line of storms, and we're continuing to track that tornado warning that continues until 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time for Concordia Parish in southeastern Louisiana. And this tornadic storm will be near Black Hawk around 3:10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So just something to keep in mind. This is going into Mississippi as we speak, and even this line of storms as we are tracking this across parts of the country. So there you go. Let's put on the classic radar. And so not only are we tracking that tornadic storm across Louisiana, this line of storms is gonna push into parts of Mississippi. And then if you're anywhere in Arkansas, Little Rock, doesn't look like you're under any sort of severe threat. All you're going to see within the storm is a lot of rain, but rain that can fall in a short period of time could cause some localized flooding. So just something to keep aware of. If you're in Little Rock wondering what are these storm systems going to do in my city, this is about to push through those areas, and really within the next hour or two, I think conditions will start to better in those regions. And really behind this front, you're feeling that cooler air and much cooler feeling like fall for areas in Oklahoma City, Dallas, and even Houston as that front continues to push through these areas. But we are also watching a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, and this severe thunderstorm warning in southern Louisiana for Berea, Lafayette, Vermilion, Martin, and St. Landry Parish until 2:55 p.m. This afternoon, or I should say until 3:30 p.m. This afternoon. It was issued at 2:55 with 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible. When you see a line of storms like this, you typically do see severe thunderstorm warnings, mostly for that line of wind, straight line winds that is possible that could cause some damage. 60-mile-per-hour winds isn't something to take lightly. And then just south of this one, we do have a couple marine warnings in place for these areas, and then this larger severe thunderstorm that is embedded within this tornado warning, the severe thunderstorm warning until 3:45 for Concordia and Adams counties, or Adams parishes, Adams County in Mississippi, but Cuyahoga Parish in Louisiana until 3:45 with 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts as well. And this is going into Simmsport. Simmsport, you just reported a tornado on the ground. Now you're going to get in on even more gusty winds and a lot of rainfall. So we'll have to see if we get any visuals of what that tornado looked like in near Simmsport just a couple of minutes ago. That was a confirmed tornado. Right now, we're not seeing anything on the ground as we speak. Let's see the newest update with the National Weather Service there. So an observed tornado, they're continuing at 3:01 p.m. was located near Fort Adams, just 13 miles east of Simmsport. It's moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. So this is actually a fast-moving system. It looks like we're still seeing something on the ground, and this was just now. There was a report of that, so it looks like this thing did get its act together, and it's still staying on the ground there. Again, this is in Concordia, Louisiana, confirmed tornado near Fort Adams, 13 miles east of Simmsport. So we're still tracking a tornadic system that is continuing to produce a tornado over this area. And it's not surprising because although the velocity, these radars, or at least this warning is in between radars, you could still point out the velocity on our radar. So that indicates a rotation over that storm, and something that we're going to keep tracking over the next coming minutes. So if we take a look at what was occurring over the last couple minutes, so you're still seeing that indication of rotation within the storm system. So let's turn on that radar for Jackson there in Mississippi, and then we'll take a look at what's going on with this velocity layer. And you're still seeing that broad area of rotation actually with the latest scan. So you kind of saw those dark colors over Simmsport there, and you can see as it progressed over these areas, it actually did, you did see more of an indication of rotation over this area. So that's right now in the warning box zone over these regions. So definitely a dangerous storm right now. It's still producing a tornado on the ground. Anybody in these areas, just stay in your safe zone. Put as many walls between you and windows. This is a really serious threat with this tornado still on the ground there in Louisiana. And so you can still see that indication of velocity there. And again, this is Louisiana. This is actually going into Mississippi. So we need to be careful. If you live anywhere in Mississippi, Woodville, Mississippi, you're in the path of this line of storms, anywhere north of that as well. On I should say Highway 61 there on Woods, that's the area that might see some of this activity moving into your area within the next coming minutes. It's right over, it's right coming over the Mississippi River there. So definitely something to be careful of over the next coming minutes. And there we're still seeing that indication of rotation within this storm system. Wow. When you see a signature like that, that definitely indicates that there's something there on the ground. Let's see if we can see anything on our coefficient, any sort of debris ball there. Doesn't look like we're seeing any indication of that. Usually when you see those bright colors pop up on the screen, that's indication that there's some sort of debris being lofted in the atmosphere, but we're not seeing that as of right now. But the velocity layer really is indicating strong rotation over this area, and the NWS service is confirming a tornado on the ground over these areas. So it looks like we just got a new tornado warning that's about to be issued, and this is for Wilkinson, Mississippi. So it looks like they are issuing a warning or extending this warning into Mississippi there. Severe thunderstorm, straight line wind damage. So this one's being warned for straight line wind damage over Fort Adams, and it's moving at 45 miles per hour. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes the NWS does issue these warnings because of the wind damage that can come from these storm systems. So this tornado warning in particular, as we wait for it to pop up there, is being warned because of straight line winds and straight damage that could be produced in these areas. So that's something to be aware of with these conditions. When they tell you to take shelter because of the tornado warning, you also want to be in your safe zone during these types of events, because straight line wind damage is not something to take lightly. You could see some pretty significant damage with straight line wind, especially with debris flying around in these kinds of storm systems. And this is a fast moving one at 45 miles per hour over these areas. So another tornado warning coming for y'all, and it did look like it did expand into parts of Mississippi. So they are expanding this current tornado warning into Mississippi, and they are warning it for straight line winds, but looks like with this particular warning, they aren't seeing anything on the ground, but this is radar indicated. And because it already produced a tornado, it's definitely something to watch over the next coming minutes. So let's take it to that WSI graphic, Matt, and I'm going to put on the regular radar so you can see the expansion of this warning. And there in along Highway 61, just north of Woodville, you're under this warning. It's 3 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time out there. So just something to keep in mind. It's not really prime time for commute, but if you have to drive anywhere on 61 at the moment, I would stay indoors. Don't go anywhere near this warning. This warning has straight line winds, possibly with this particular storm system. So you can see it, this expansion of the tornado warning that did produce a tornado earlier this afternoon, just a couple of minutes ago. So this is why we're watching this very closely. So I'm going to change this warning here for y'all to see there the radar a little bit better, but you can see it there. Doesn't look like we're getting any cities to populate within this warning. So Point Breeze, Black Hawk, you're under this warning for a couple minutes, but Lane Hart, if you're anywhere in that area, you're in this tornado warning box. Let's change it now, and let's show you the velocity on this radar. And you're still seeing a little bit of an indication of rotation there. So let me circle that for y'all so you can see if you're anywhere in Louisiana. So that's where I'm seeing some sort of signature of rotation, although the radar is very out of the scope and we can't really pick it up on it well, but it is radar indicated rotation, and this will actually move northward into some of these cities up here. So Leslie, Lanehart, Doloroso, Darrington, Mississippi, these are the cities that within the next 15 to 20 minutes you're going to get in on these straight lined winds. So something to be aware of. We are still watching this, and it looks like they did just cancel that warning in Concordia, Louisiana, as the storm system is already over the border of Mississippi. So anywhere in Blackhawk, you're not seeing any sort of tornado warning right now. But anywhere in Mississippi, like I mentioned, Leslie, Mississippi, 15 minutes, Lane Hart in 23 minutes, and Darrington, Mississippi in 45 minutes. You're going to feel this storm go over your area within the next coming minutes. So we're going to continue to watch that closely. So it looks like the newest scan, I can actually see a little bit more of that area of rotation there. And you can see it here with the latest velocity scan, just coming in just a little bit better. So it looks like just right over the border of Mississippi. That's what we're seeing, that radar indication of tornadoes there. So it doesn't look like we have any new updates on this, but of course this tornado warning is producing straight line winds damage over Port Adams, 17 miles northwest or east of Simmsport, and it's moving at 45. So this is a pretty fast mover. Let's see if they highlighted any areas. So if you're in Dolorosa, like I mentioned, you're in the path of this, 3:30 p.m. and this is for Mississippi, Dolorosa, Mississippi. Stay in your safe zone for the next coming minutes. The storm, you're still under this warning at least until 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So you have another 20 minutes on this particular storm system. And that's according to the NWS. You were going to see some straight lined wind damage, and of course this already produced a tornado, so just something to keep in mind as we are tracking this very closely here. I'm going to take a look. If any of y'all have any questions, make sure to ask. A lot of you are watching us from pretty much everywhere around the country. Montana, hi. From California, hello. Massachusetts, hi, how are y'all? Okay, so let's take a look at what's going to be happening. Again, we're still tracking the storm. As we get the newest scans with this in terms of velocity, I'll update you on that, but it's circled right there on your screen. And if you're anywhere in Dolorosa, Mississippi, like I mentioned, you're going to get in on this warning. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do this track. So really, in 3:30, so about 3:30, you're going to get in on this storm system, and you can see that rotation really tracking towards Highway 61. Dolorosa is right on that highway. A small town, but you know, a small town, you still need to be aware of these conditions. Tornado warnings in place for you guys there in Mississippi, and we're going to be watching the storm system pretty closely as it tracks over Mississippi, and as this line of storms really is producing these types of storms, tornado warnings, rotation within this line. A lot to talk about, especially with this line of storms that's pushing through now Baton Rouge. You're starting to get some of those rain showers in association with this, some of these gusty winds with these storm systems. Now let's take these out and give you the latest scan. So it looks like the latest scan now, the rotation isn't as robust as what we saw earlier. You're not seeing very much of the green within this, but it's still something to keep in mind. Straight line winds and still in association with this. Let's give you an update on that on that track there. So in the next 26 minutes, Dolorosa, you're going to get in on this storm system. Just something to keep in mind. Again, I always like to show you the track, because if you do happen to know anybody who's in this city or anybody around this, you can warn them that they are about to get in on these gusty winds, straight line wind damage, and really possibility of what could be a tornado with this radar indicated storm. We already saw a tornado, a confirmed tornado with this particular storm, and this is why we're talking about it, because it was a confirmed tornado earlier, just a couple of minutes ago. If you're just tuning in, there has been quite a bit of activity, at least in terms of severe weather, all across the Gulf Coast today. And this was early in the morning, and this is still ongoing, and it's still going to be ongoing at least through the evening. We do have tornado watches in place for most of Louisiana, South Mississippi, until 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So just be ready. And maybe if you're in Biloxi, New Orleans, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, maybe even Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, you're not under any sort of tornado watch, but you still need to be aware of this line of storms that's going to move through, may produce some gusty winds. But if you're in these areas, just have some sort of plan ready just in case you do have to take shelter. These storms are producing tornadoes. They have already produced quite a bit of tornadoes across the Texas Gulf Coast, and even in and around the Lake Charles area. They're on the border of Texas. So we can take that graphic full map there, just so you can see what these storms are capable of producing. Pretty robust there, as you're seeing multiple reports of tornadoes in Texas and then extending into Louisiana. We're already seeing one report of a tornado with this particular storm system this afternoon, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did see more spin-ups within this line of storm. So this is a pretty strong line that's coming in. This is an association with the front that's pushing through the country as we speak. This is really cooling things off, but before it does that, it's really producing these tornadic-like storms over these areas. And again, we're continuing to watch that tornado warning in Mississippi this afternoon until 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. If you're maybe in Louisiana, New Orleans, Biloxi, even Mobile, I would recommend bringing in anything that you have outdoors. Maybe you were getting ready for Halloween. You have a lot of decorations up. You definitely want to bring them in. They're going to be soaked with water. They might even fly around. So you want to secure those items within your home before these storm systems get to you, especially in Louisiana, Gulfport, Biloxi, South Mississippi, any of those areas. These strong winds are being produced with this particular line of storms. And this is why we're talking about this evening, because this is important to pay attention to. And not only do we have tornado warnings, but we also have severe thunderstorm warnings in place. So if we take a look at the MyRadar app, and we're going to come in on this newly issued severe thunderstorm warning. This is just outside of Baton Rouge. So Baton Rouge, in the next coming minutes, you're going to get in on these winds. So this is actually being warned for 60-mile-per-hour winds. And this goes until 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time. And this severe thunderstorm warning, it's a pretty big box. You can see it there all across portions of Louisiana there. So Baton Rouge, you're almost in on the action. I think you'll get in on it either at 4:30, between 4:30 and 5, really. But you're starting to see a lot of the rain coming into those areas. And then if we take a look at our graphic system there, I want to time it out for you. So let's do this line of storms, and this is really the brunt of these storms as they're tracking towards areas in Baton Rouge there in the next coming minutes. So Baton Rouge, you have another 42 minutes until this storm system comes into your area. Zachary, about 23 minutes. And then Gonzales, you still have an hour and a half until these storm systems really move through your area. And then let's redo that and time it out more. This particular storm system is moving at, let's see, 45 miles per hour. So this is moving a little bit faster than what I saw earlier. So we're going to continue to track this out for you. So maybe you're wondering, I'm in New Orleans or Houma, Louisiana, this particular storm system. So let's edit that and actually time it out a little bit more accurately for you guys that are maybe thinking about later on today. So there you see it, New Orleans. You still have about 41 minutes until this storm system moves through your area. So about an hour or so. That's prime time for the commute hour. Just something to keep in mind. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're just now tuning in and you're in eastern Louisiana and then western Mississippi, and you're not seeing any rain of some sort, maybe start getting those, wrapping up whatever you're doing. If you have to go home, if you're at work, contemplating, should I go home early? I think right now would be the best time to start that commute home, because as these storms move in, they're going to be producing gusty winds and a lot of rainfall. With that rainfall too, it could really make it could make commuting very treacherous over the roadways, especially with all that rain. You can't really see, and those windshield wipers going crazy. I would recommend trying to go home, getting those errands done right before this moves through your area, mostly for Louisiana and anywhere west of that, or I should say anywhere east of that. But again, this line of storms is still continuing to push through Louisiana as we speak, already producing tornado warnings over those areas. And looks like they did diminish that tornado warning just a little bit. So let's see if I can get some of the latest information, if we have anything reported with this. So it looks like they're still continuing the tornado warning with tornadoes and straight line wind damage. Just radar indicated tornadoes now, or radar indicated rotation, but this did produce a tornado earlier this afternoon. It is 8 miles southwest of Dolorosa, 19 miles southeast of Monterey, Mississippi, and now it's moving at 50 miles per hour. So this is actually speeding up. And so let's turn on the velocity layer here and see if we can see any sort of rotation there. So there's the area we were talking about earlier, and looks like it is weakening just a little bit. But let's see if we can turn this radar on. So do that. I don't know if we're having issues with this particular radar that's not showing up on the screen there. But to give you perspective, all those areas are severe thunderstorm warning. So it looks like we actually have a newly issued tornado watch that just popped up on the screen there. And I'm not surprised. You can actually see where the rotation is within the storm system. This is tracking towards Jackson there. So tornado warning for Amite and Wilkeson, Mississippi. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. It's moving at 55 miles per hour. So that is moving pretty fast. But there's that rotation there on the radar. Very strong indication of rotation there, even though it's coming out of the radar zone. Seeing that far out means there's some pretty strong rotation. If you're anywhere in Amite and Wilkeson, Mississippi, you definitely need to be taking shelter. This indication of rotation there worries me just a little bit, especially with what we already saw earlier today. So I'm gonna track this out for you guys. And actually I need to edit the the movement of this system. So 55 miles per hour. We're going to draw a new track for you guys. So if you're anywhere within this zone, so there you have it. We're going to track it all the way out to Centerville. So if you're anywhere from Baines, Mississippi, you need to be in your tornado shelter now. This rotation is right over your city. Alice in the next 18 minutes, Wilson in the next 36 minutes, and 54 minutes in Centerville. It's moving at 55 miles per hour. So we are definitely seeing radar indication of velocity there in these areas. So we're going to continue to track that for y'all, but there it is. I'm not seeing anything confirmed, at least in terms of tornadoes at the moment, but again, this is a very strong indication of rotation there that you're seeing on your screen, and we're going to continue to track this for y'all. So let's go on the MyRadar app and see. Actually, we'll keep it to this graphic system, Matt. Just stay on this one for now while I edit a couple things on the MyRadar app, that we can better see what is happening. But if you're just now tuning in, we are watching this newly issued tornado watch or tornado warning that is tracking towards Centerville and some of these areas within Mississippi. So I'll leave the track on for y'all too. So if you're just tuning in, you hear the tornado sirens, you get the alert on your phone, you know exactly at what time these storms will arrive in your city. So I'll leave that up for now while I get some of the latest information and update the app here.
absolutely necessary.
Hey, y'all, just checking in on these conditions on a severe or a tornado warning. I had to catch my breath there. I've been talking a lot, so my voice is getting a little scratchy, but we'll keep updating you on what's going on there. A lot of severe weather going on. If you're anywhere in Louisiana, you're already feeling the brunt of this storm system, and we're continuing to track this active tornado warning that is going over St. Francisville and tracking into parts of Mississippi, Norwood, Wilson, Mississippi, Centerville. You're just right outside of the tornado warning box. So I did time it out for you here on the screen. We are still seeing an indication of rotation there within the storm system. So I'm actually going to move that there and then try to zoom in a little bit more for y'all, see if any more cities populate. So there's that indication of rotation. That's when you see the red and the green coming together. And if we time it out, so this is actually moving pretty fast at 55 miles per hour. But Wakefield, Alice, Wilson, you're going to get in on this within the next coming minutes. Wakefield, you're already feeling the storm system over you. Nothing confirmed, at least in terms of any reports of tornadoes, which is some good news, but we're still watching this. Of course, could produce some pretty gusty winds in association with this storm system. So a lot to track here this afternoon across Louisiana. And you know, some of y'all made a good point that I haven't mentioned, but we have tracked over the past coming days. If you're in Louisiana, especially in the Lake Charles area, you were affected by what was left of Ida, and especially last year you were affected by Laura. So seeing all this rain isn't really helping with the recovery efforts there. Some of y'all said people are still living in tents in these areas. So especially in Louisiana, this is why it's important to pay attention to these conditions and prepare in advance with these types. They definitely don't need any more storm systems rolling through this area, especially with the grounds that are already saturated, and seeing these types of storms doesn't really help with the recovery efforts there. And this is why it's important to track these types of storm systems for anybody there who does definitely need to be aware of these conditions. Always a good point to show y'all what is going on. So either way, let's show you a big picture view of what's going on. So we've tracked that storm system. Looks like the velocity is weakening a little bit on that tornado warning, which is some good news to see on the screen, but we're still dealing with a wide variety of severe thunderstorm warnings over these areas, and you're seeing that now. So Lake Charles, you are getting at the end of the storm system, and you're going to feel much cooler areas with these areas, but across southern Louisiana, you're seeing a lot of this storm system, especially across these areas. So definitely don't need any extra rain coming into these regions, especially with the saturated grounds. We're already seeing this pretty much across all of the southeast. More rain is not needed in these areas, and especially into New Orleans. These areas typically they see localized flooding pretty easily. There's something to keep in mind. But New Orleans, you're already starting to get some of the initial rainfall from this particular storm system over these areas. So definitely something to keep in mind. So let's actually track this line of storms out for you. So you're wondering, what is the time frame that these storms, if you're watching us from Louisiana, you're wondering what time or what should I do? Should I go home now? Prepare in advance. You should always be prepared in advance, but definitely right before these storms move in. Really, in New Orleans, you're closing in on that time frame where you really can do anything. These storms are starting to pick up in motion there. So it's best to stay in your safe zone in these areas. And so let's track it out for you guys who are in Louisiana. And so here's that line of storms. You could see the tornado warnings on your screen as we speak. And then, so let's track this out. So anywhere from Baton Rouge, the next 10 minutes, you're already starting to feel some of the wind and rain from this. Laplace, in about 45 minutes, I think you'll start to feel this line of storms moving through your area, and even Hammond, Louisiana there. So just something to keep in mind for these areas as that storm system moves through these regions. So we'll play this in motion. You can see Lake Charles, you're done with the storm system now. A lot of rain has fallen over these areas, and we'll have to see what sort of rainfall totals we are seeing with this particular line of storms. But Louisiana, you're going to get in on some of the worst weather here, at least southeast Louisiana, within the next coming hour or two in these areas, and this will pretty much last at least throughout the early evening hours. So just be prepared for that. A lot of rain and wind is coming to you. Now, if you're north of this storm system, you're also seeing all the rain that's happening with these areas. So we'll turn on this radar, this regular radar, and you can see just how big this line of storms is. So not only is Louisiana, this is where the severe side of the storm system is, but Little Rock, Arkansas, you're seeing a lot of this rain coming in, stretching all the way into parts of Kansas, Omaha, and even the Northern Plains, North Dakota, South Dakota, and part of the Midwest, Minneapolis. You're going to get in on this rain from this line of storms that's coming through parts of the United States. And then eventually this is actually going to track out into the southeast. So you're wondering, you're in Florida, you're watching us from Florida. You're not seeing very much. It's actually a really nice day today in parts of Florida, but that is going to change in the next coming hour. So let's give you an update on what's going on tomorrow for these regions while we gather some of this information on these tornado warnings. So right now, nothing reported with that tornado warning. That is located over St. Francisville, but stay in your safe zone if you are in these areas. Now, tomorrow, you also need to be prepared for the possibility of some gusty winds and maybe some spin-ups within these storm systems. So this is why we like to show you the forecast of what's going to happen. So Thursday, there is a slight risk of severe weather expanding for the Florida Panhandle all the way into parts of South Carolina, North Carolina, and even Georgia. So what does this mean for y'all if you're there? Just be prepared for some rainy time. So let's time it out. The rest of the afternoon, southeast Louisiana, 4:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So that's now. As we get into the next coming hours, or I should say that's in an hour, this is 7 o'clock p.m. So New Orleans, you're getting in now on this line of storms. Right now, some of the storms that form in front of these lines are starting to get in your area. But by 7 p.m., the strongest wind and rain will start to fall over these regions. And then as we get into the later portion of tonight, you're seeing that line of storms still producing those gusty winds and hail in South Mississippi, South Alabama, into the Florida Panhandle, Panama City overnight. This is an overnight threat for y'all. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, this is when you're starting to see those isolated storms there. These could have the potential of some sort of rotation within these storm systems. And even though we saw that across the Gulf Coast of Texas, this may be possibility heading into Florida. Atlanta, you're going to see some of the rain too, heading into tomorrow morning. And then really, I think Atlanta, you're going to get in on some of the strongest storms by the afternoon, but you're seeing most of the rainfall across Florida in the early morning hours. And then as we get into the afternoon, so a little bit faster there. But let's time it out for you guys there. So you're seeing it in Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Miami. Pretty much the whole state is going to be under some sort of rainy conditions. You're under that slight risk. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some sort of watch go out from the SPC heading into tomorrow afternoon. Could be severe thunderstorm watches. So just be prepared for those kinds of storms to hit your area in Florida. And then you're seeing that stretching all the way into parts of Georgia, Atlanta. You're going to get in on some of the strongest storms heading into the afternoon. So after 1 p.m. lunchtime there, and then eventually heading into the later evening portion. I think a lot of the Carolinas, you're going to start to see these storm systems in your areas. And then eventually a lot of South Florida too. So Miami, as we get into Friday, you might see some of these stronger storm systems in association with this front. So a lot going on within the next coming days. This is days of severe weather that we've been seeing over parts of the plains and into the southeast. So this is why it's important that we're updating you for this. A lot of active weather going on right now. So let's take you back to this tornado warning that we still have in place. If you're just now tuning in, we are continuing to track the severe weather threat that is now in Louisiana, southeastern Louisiana, a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. We have an active ongoing tornado warning there near Centerville, Mississippi, Jacksonville, as it crosses over areas in Louisiana. So we did see a confirmed tornado with this particular storm system, but now areas in Mississippi, you're getting in on these pretty robust storm systems. So let's turn on the velocity layer there. And so that's the earlier indication of velocity. And then it kind of dissipated just a little bit. So not as a strong indication of velocity, but I think you can still point out a little bit of an area of velocity over this area. And this particular warning goes until 3:45. So you still have about 9 minutes on this warning. Let's see if the NWS decided to cancel this at all. So it looks like they actually issued a new severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag over Amite and Wilkinson, Mississippi, East Baton Rouge, East Feliciana, until 4 o'clock p.m. So this is that whole warning box you're seeing on top. So this is new. They just issued this as I was speaking, but that's that new yellow box you're seeing on the WSI graphics there on your screen. That's that whole area that they are tagging with the tornado. So it looks like they are going to let this particular tornado warning expire. And they just warned it with a severe thunderstorm warning with a possible tornado tag there. So it looks like wind damage is still possible with this, and it's still moving pretty robustly. But this again goes until 3:45 this afternoon. And if you're just now tuning in, we're still continuing to track these tornado warnings. So yeah, a large area that's going to see wind and rain, and you can see that there, especially with the signature like this, a little bit of a, when that line looks like it's coming ahead of the rest of the line, could be an indication of some bow echoing there, which means some strong winds could be in association with this. So I'm not surprised that they warned this for tornado warning. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're just now tuning in, we were talking about how the NWS actually issues tornado warnings for the possibility of seeing some straight line winds because they want you to take shelter with these gusty winds. You could see some damage with straight line winds, and it's important that you stay in your safe zone if you're under any sort of tornado warning, because you could see those potentially strong damaging winds over these areas. But looks like we just still have this new severe thunderstorm warning over areas. In Baton Rouge, you're still out of this severe thunderstorm warning. You're seeing a little bit of light rain in and around that area, but you're about to feel this storm system in particular, maybe with some gusty winds over your area in the next coming minutes here. And taking a look at the overall state of Louisiana, it's just been a rainy and windy day all day for you guys out there in Louisiana. And if you're in southeastern Louisiana, you still haven't felt the strongest part of the storm system. So just be prepared for that. Stay indoors if you can. Stay where you are within the next hour or two. This is when you're going to start to feel some of the strongest storms if you're in really far southeastern Louisiana and New Orleans. You're already starting to feel some of those isolated storms over your areas. Jackson, Mississippi, you're also going to get in on some of these storms that are coming through your area. But let's take it to the MyRadar app, Matt. And I want to give you an update. If you're just now tuning in, wondering what the heck is going on in Louisiana, because it's raining where I am, you're seeing all of this activity, but there's also a tornado watch in place. And this is it goes until really 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So New Orleans, Biloxi, Gulfport, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, those areas are under this watch zone. So what a watch means, it doesn't mean that there's active weather now. It means that you have the ingredients to have active weather, but a warning means it is happening now. Take shelter. It's imminent. You need to be in your safe zone, or at least be paying attention to the weather. So this is why it's important to point that out. But if you're in Gulfport, Hattiesburg, you're not seeing very much activity there. But you will get in on this activity. And I'm going to leave this radar playing now while I drink some water here. I've been talking a lot, but always ask your questions in the chat. I am reading what you're telling me here. A lot of you in Louisiana this afternoon, and really across the country. I saw some of you from are watching us from Florida, Atlanta, even Massachusetts, where you just got in on this nor'easter that hit those areas. Okay, so we're continuing to watch this tornado warning. No new updates I'm seeing from the NWS. I don't see anything that's indicating that there's anything confirmed, at least in terms of tornadoes over those areas. So let's see. Where they're still warning until 3:45, but they've actually expanded this particular tornado warning for with a severe thunderstorm warning, which has a capability of producing these straight line winds. And it's interesting to see. So Matt, if you put on the MyRadar app and put it full screen so people can really see. So I'm going to zoom in to where that tornado warning is. But what you're seeing inside that tornado warning earlier was some sort of bow echo signature. And I think they warned it because that's really where you find some of the strongest winds within the storm system. But then you see the other polygon there, and this is just the severe thunderstorm watch. So that's that whole area that's going to get in on severe, or I should say severe thunderstorm warnings, that's going to get in on these type of conditions. So this goes until 4 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and again, expect damage to roofs, maybe even some trees down. I know out there in Louisiana, you've seen a lot of rain this past year, so power outage is also not out of the realm. If you're in New Orleans, Biloxi, anywhere in South Mississippi, I would recommend to charge your devices now, because the power may go out, and you need to know what type of alerts will be in place for your area, especially if you get a tornado warning, because you're going to get in on possibly some damage with how robust the storm system and what it already did today in parts of the Gulf Coast of Texas, and even there in southwestern Louisiana. This is why this is a storm system that we need to be paying attention to, as we're going to get some of this strong activity coming into New Orleans and even southern Mississippi there. So just something to keep in mind. We are still continuing to track these storm systems over the course of the next coming hours. So I'm just checking in on what's going on with these storm systems. I'll leave the radar playing for y'all. And I'll zoom into this warning zone and loop it out for you guys, so that's how you know where that tornado warning is currently. It is set to expire in the next 2 minutes there. So just something to keep in mind. We're going to keep watching this, especially if this storm system produces any more rotation. But for now, I'll leave this radar up, and if we do get any more warnings or anything that that y'all need to be updated on, come back on. But I'll leave this on for a little bit. I'm gonna take a drink of water and do a little bit more research on these storms.
But it's absolutely necessary. But it's absolutely necessary.
Hey, y'all, meteorologist Erica Lopez. I'm just going to give you a quick update. We're actually about to end the stream. Doesn't look like we're seeing any tornado warnings as of this moment, but I do want to give you an update on what's going on with the severe thunderstorm warnings. If you're in Baton Rouge, you're getting the brunt of the storm as we speak. A severe thunderstorm warning in effect until at least the next coming minutes, until 4:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So you have about another 20 minutes on this particular severe thunderstorm right over Baton Rouge, Barker, Watson, Slaughter, Louisiana, Clinton, Liberty, Gloucester, and just outside of Macomb. You're going to get in on this storm system. Just south of Baton Rouge, there's actually another severe thunderstorm warning, and these are all being warned for possible 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts with these storm systems, and these also go until 4:45. And these are for the cities in Plaquemine, White Castle, Donaldsville, and Napoleonville there in Louisiana. In South Louisiana, another severe thunderstorm warning, at least for 60-mile-per-hour winds. And this also goes until 4:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So this line of storms is moving in, and it's coming in pretty fast over these regions. A lot of rain is expected with this storm system. And you're seeing a lot of rain over New Orleans ahead of the front there as we're getting ready for that storm system to move over those areas. So let's give you a quick update on the timing. So maybe you're wondering, okay, you're in New Orleans, you're seeing some of the rain, it's pretty strong, and you're wondering when this will be over. Actually, you have a next couple of hours until this will be over. So a lot of the isolated rain is coming to you right now, but timing this out at least over the next hour or so. 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time, you see that line just a little bit west of New Orleans. And then really by 8:30 p.m., if you're anywhere in, let's say, Lake Charles, west of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, most of the activity will be over. But if you're in Mississippi, South Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, and even parts of Arkansas, you're still going to see a lot of this rain. But New Orleans, you're going to get on the brunt of this at least between 7 to 8:30 this evening. That's really when that line of storms starts to move through your area. Later on tonight, South Mississippi and South Alabama, from Mobile to the Florida Panhandle, you're going to start to see some of the effects of this line of storms. And then eventually by 4 o'clock, so the overnight hours, Panama City, if you're out there vacationing, maybe getting that last feel of summer, Panama City, Destin, anywhere on the Florida Panhandle, Tallahassee, Florida, you're going to start to see the effects of the storm system moving through. Lots of lightning, heavy rainfall, and gusty winds will probably wake you up in the overnight hours. And then as we get into really the peak of commuter time hours, Jacksonville, you're going to start to see some of those lingering showers come into your area. Tampa, you may see some strong storms, especially out to sea there heading into the 6 o'clock hour, 7 o'clock. That's the same continuing there in Tampa, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, and Panama City. And then really as we head into the afternoon, there's actually a slight risk of severe weather for Florida and extending into the Carolinas for the severe as this frontal system pushes through these areas. Atlanta, you're also going to get in on this activity at least after lunchtime. And then heading into the afternoon, I think that's really the prime time for the Carolinas there and east parts of Georgia as well. As you can see, some of those isolated storms forming over those regions, especially in Jacksonville, may get some pretty strong storms heading into your Thursday afternoon. And eventually this storm system pushes into the Carolinas, but we also can't forget what's going to happen in South Florida heading into the overnight hours into your Thursday and then eventually Friday. So we still have a couple more days of this severe weather, especially for parts of the southeast. Just something to keep in mind. Here's where that severe weather risk is in store for tomorrow with a low chance of tornadoes, but I wouldn't rule it out completely. There still could be some quick spin ups with these strong storm systems that push through these areas. High winds, of course, always an issue with these frontal systems, and the possibility of some isolated flooding. Very small chances of hail, doesn't mean it can't happen, but it'll be very unlikely that any hail, at least big hail, will be produced with these storm systems. So keep in mind these warnings, especially that tornado watch that goes until 10 p.m. for parts of southeastern Louisiana and South Mississippi this evening. And of course, we'll jump on back here if there's anything that you need to be aware of in terms of tornado warnings, and we'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the night. Stay safe out there and have a great rest of your Wednesday.